From the moment she laid her son to rest, Angela couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Her heart ached, not just with grief, but with a deep, nagging suspicion. Why did certain details about his death feel off? Why were there whispers that didn't add up? Desperate for answers, she did something unthinkable. She placed a hidden camera inside his coffin before the final goodbye. Days passed, and when she finally retrieved the footage, her hands trembled as she pressed play. What she saw made her stomach drop. It wasn't just grief anymore, it was horror. Something had happened in that coffin, something no mother should ever have to witness. And now Angela had proof. But the question remained, who was responsible, and how far was she willing to go to uncover the truth? Stay with me as we unravel this chilling, heart-wrenching mystery. Angela sat frozen, her eyes locked on the screen. The dim glow of the laptop flickered across her face as the video played. At first, everything seemed normal, just the stillness of the funeral home, the soft light casting shadows inside the coffin. But then something changed. A movement. A sound. Her breath caught in her throat. She rewound the footage, leaning in closer. Was it just a trick of the light? Or had something, or someone, been inside with her son after the lid was closed? Her mind raced, piecing together the strange moments leading up to the funeral, the uneasy glances from the staff, the way the mortician avoided eye contact when she asked about the final preparations. Had they known something? Were they hiding the truth from her? Angela's grief twisted into determination. Whatever was happening, she wouldn't stop until she found out, and what she would uncover next would change everything. Angela barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, the footage replayed in her mind. That movement, it wasn't her imagination. Someone had been there. But who? And why? The next morning, she returned to the funeral home, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and anger. She needed answers. The funeral director, a man with tired eyes and a forced smile, greeted her hesitantly. "I just have a few questions," Angela said, keeping her voice steady. "About my son." His expression tightened. "Of course, ma'am. But I assure you, everything was handled with the utmost care." Lies. She could hear it in his voice. She studied him closely, searching for cracks in his carefully rehearsed responses. Then, just as she was about to leave, she noticed something. A door slightly ajar behind his desk. A glimpse of something familiar inside. Her breath caught. She had seen that before, in the video. Angela's pulse quickened as she stared at the partially open door. It was the same dimly lit room from the video, the one she had only seen in fragments. Her mind raced. What was hidden behind that door? She couldn't let this go. With a shaky breath, she stepped forward, pretending to lose her balance, which gave her just enough time to slip past the director and into the back room. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of antiseptic and old wood. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with paperwork and forgotten mementos. But then her eyes landed on the thing that made her blood run cold, a set of photos scattered across a table showing her son, alive and well, posing in ways that didn't match the memories she had. Her stomach churned. Who took these pictures? Why were they here? Before she could think further, a door slammed shut behind her, and the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Angela froze. Someone was coming. There was no turning back now. Angela's heart pounded in her chest as the footsteps grew louder. She quickly shoved the photos into her jacket, hoping they wouldn't be discovered, and tried to steady her breath. The door to the back room was barely cracked open when she heard the voice. It was the funeral director, but he wasn't alone. "Are you sure she's here?" A new voice asked, low and urgent. "Yes," the funeral director replied, his tone colder now. "I saw her go inside. We have to stop her before she finds out too much." Angela's stomach dropped. They knew she was here. They were watching her. Panic clawed at her throat, but she didn't have time to think. She had to move. Quietly, she ducked behind a stack of boxes, praying they wouldn't find her. Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She nearly jumped out of her skin. Without thinking, she pulled it out. The message was from an unknown number, but it made her blood run cold. Asterisk, you're getting too close to the truth. Stop now before it's too late. Asterisk. Her hand trembled as she read the words. Who was threatening her? And how did they know what she was uncovering? The deeper she went, the more dangerous this had become. Angela's hands were shaking, but she knew she couldn't let the message distract her. She had come too far to turn back now. She needed to get out of the room before they found her, but the weight of the photos in her jacket felt like 1,000 pounds. There was no turning back once they knew she had them. As she carefully crept toward the back door, the footsteps stopped just outside the room. She held her breath, barely moving. But then the door creaked open, and the last thing she expected happened. Her son's face appeared in the doorway. Her heart stopped. He was alive. "Mom, you need to leave," he whispered urgently. "They're looking for you." Angela stumbled back, her mind spinning. How? Why was he here? Was everything she'd been through a lie? "I don't understand," she stammered, staring at him, unable to grasp what was happening. "I saw you in the coffin. You were dead." Her son's face softened, and his eyes grew darker. "They faked it, Mom. I didn't die. I couldn't tell you before. They were watching me, watching us. It's bigger than we thought. You have to trust me now." Angela felt the world tilt beneath her. Her son had been alive this whole time, and now she was caught in a web of lies so much deeper than she could have imagined. But before she could process it, she heard a voice call out from a hallway. "Angela, get away from him." The funeral director stepped into the room, but something was different about him. His eyes were empty, cold, almost like they were no longer his own. Angela's heart raced as her son stepped forward, blocking her. "It's too late. They've been using us, our family, for years. You need to leave now." The funeral director advanced, his smile almost too wide. "It's already done, Angela. Your son's fate was sealed long before you ever stepped into that room." With a final glance at her son, Angela realized the truth. She had been part of something far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. But even as the doors to escape closed behind her, she knew one thing for certain: the fight wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Angela didn't look back as she fled from the funeral home. The chilling truth about her son, the dark secrets that had surrounded their family, echoed in her mind. She had never imagined that her search for answers would lead her down such a twisted path. But now she knew the real fight had just begun. It took weeks, but Angela uncovered the full story. Her son hadn't been the only victim. The funeral home was part of a larger operation, a hidden network trafficking people and faking deaths for money. What they didn't count on was Angela's determination. Armed with the truth, she went public, and the authorities eventually shut down the whole network. But even as the justice system took over, a part of Angela couldn't forget the haunting look in her son's eyes. There was more to this story, and as the years went on, Angela promised herself she would uncover it, whatever it took.